Okay, the paint dried, and in this weather, which is about apparently 94 degrees in the June of California, that means it took about 2-ish hours. And I use 2-ish because A, there are a couple of things you need to know when you're painting metal, even cheap steel soup cans, which this was actually a 1-gallon can of artichoke hearts. Don't ask me why I had a gallon of artichoke hearts in my life. The square one was one of those presentation cookie cans they give you at Christmas, and so was the round one. And the 5 pails are pails I bought for $5 a piece at the hardware store because we were running a little short on cans and I didn't have time to scrounge more in time to grow a bunch of stuff for the 4th of July. Okay, paint dries quickly, but the thing you have to know about painting on metal is you don't want to put the paint on too thick. So put the paint on nice and thin and for the first coat, and it'll look kind of, thinnish and wishy-washy, and you'll still see some of the metal through or the paint job underneath through if it's, a Christmas cookie can. And then let it dry. Make sure it actually dries, and it's not just like tacky dry. That's the problem. People get impatient when they're painting. Painting is quick. Waiting for paint to dry is not quick. So, just be patient. Make sure it's dry. In this weather, the first coat on metal will take about an hour to dry. Then, once that's dried, you paint over again with another thin coat, and you'll get a nice, not quite enamel surface, but a really nice surface, considering, what it is. You would not necessarily assume this was something I pulled out of the recycling bucket at this point. So, let it dry. Paint it again. Then let it dry, and now it's time to work on the second stage because, yes, there will be a second stage because I have blue and red paint as well because we're going for a patriotic look. I have a thinner paintbrush, and I've got a roll of masking tape, which they sell cheap at pretty much any hardware store or, craft store or whatever. Just basic masking tape. You can usually get a whole roll of 50 feet for $2. And I'm going to do red, white, and blue stripes. And yes, I painted the whole can white because it's easier to paint a darker color over white than it is to paint white over a darker color. So we're starting with white and then we're adding in the red and blue. Wish me luck. And yeah, it is the anniversary of the liberation of Rome this week. And if I was really feeling patriotic, in honor of the liberation of Rome, I'd probably be tempted to paint M&Ms on these cans instead of just red, white, and blue stripes. But I'm not that good at that. And you want to know why I do M&Ms for the liberation of Rome? Because one of my good friends was Italian in school. She was an exchange student, and her father was older. And when he was a little boy, he was a child in occupied Rome, and he was about 6 or 7 years old when Rome was occupied by the Allies. And every time she'd go home to Italy from the United States, she'd go to Costco first and buy sacks and sacks and sacks of M&Ms for him because he and all of his, friends were children in Rome when Rome was liberated by the Allies, and the civilian population of Rome, especially the poor civilian population of Rome, not the Mussolini-associated collaborationist population of Rome, were borderline starving by the time the Allies rolled into Rome. I mean, they were eating cats, and I don't even want to know how you can make lasagna out of a cat, but apparently people were trying it, and he had fond memories of the Allied soldiers giving away their M&M rations because M&Ms, those little oval candies, were actually originally developed for, military consumption because they wouldn't melt like a chocolate bar. And the Allied soldiers would give them away to the children in Rome. But for this, we're doing red, white, and blue stripes because stripes are easy, and I don't know how to paint M&Ms. So here we are. It's basically stage 2. We've got two nice coats of white base paint on all the cans, and now it's masking tape and red and blue paint time. Good luck, and see you in another, 5 or 6 hours once the next layer of paint dries.